What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Create 0.3, and today we are going to be going over automated potion brewing. Now, right out the gate, I know a bunch of you are going to be asking, why should you use Create to set this up instead of going with a very simple, very compact vanilla brewing setup? And I will tell you there is one main reason, and that is Create will give you 33% more potions for the same amount of resources, meaning you will get the most bang for your buck if you go with this setup. Now, obviously, that's the name of the game when you're going to be brewing a ton of potions, because it will save you a bunch of resources in the long run. And then on top of that, this setup looks extremely awesome, and it's a ton of fun to make because it is relatively complicated. So I think it'll make for a good video today, and a lot of you guys have been requesting this. So it's going to be a little bit of a long one, so I would buckle up because we are going to jump right into it. And we're not going to be doing any crafting today because there is so much here that we need to go over. So I'm quickly going to run through everything you need, and then we will jump into setting this up. So for the actual setup itself, we are going to need 7 redstone, 5 cogwheels, 3 droppers, 4 depots, 2 redstone repeaters, 2 andesite funnels, 4 shafts, 8 hoppers, 1 blaze burner, 1 spout, a mechanical mixer, a powered latch, a smart fluid pipe, 3 chests, 2 brass funnels, 1 large cogwheel, a redstone torch, 2 vertical gearboxes, a clutch, 9 fluid pipes, 2 deployers, 2 mechanical pumps, 3 redstone links, an item drain, a comparator, a button, and a basin. And then on top of that, you're going to need whatever potion you plan on brewing in its final state, all the different materials you are going to need to make that potion, some empty glass bottles, 2 buckets of water, and some coal or whatever you plan on fueling your blaze burner with. Once you have all that, you can grab it out, and if you guys could not already tell, there's so much here, it's not all going to fit in my inventory. So we're going to grab all this out, and my goal would be to get both water buckets out, so we are going to leave this oak here, and I think we should have pretty much everything we need to go start setting this up. So I have this nice area over here cleared out and ready to go for this setup. This should be more than enough space. If you're clearing out an area in a wall somewhere, you probably want roughly 10 by 9 by 7. Obviously, we're outside, so the ceiling isn't really going to be an issue, but that should be more than enough room to be able to work around all of this and move around to put down all the different intricate parts you will need, because you are going to need to orient yourself specifically in a lot of this setup to get it working properly. Now, once you have that, the only other thing that you will need is some form of rotational power coming in at 30 RPM or higher. We have the setup from the furnace engine and flywheel bringing in 32 RPM rotational power, which will be more than enough. It's just important to be over 30 because we have the mechanical mixer, which, as we all know, because we are all Create experts, that it needs 30 RPM or higher to actually start mixing. Now, the rest of this setup, we're just going to run it at 32 RPM because really it's not going to require that much stress capacity. I believe even with everything at 32 RPM, it only needs 640. So that's just a couple water wheels hooked up. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. And so it's just going to be a couple deployers and stuff that need it. Most of this actually doesn't need rotational power. So the first thing we start out with once we have all of that good to go will be the droppers. And we want to put these where the input and output is going to be. So you first want to decide on that. For me, I want it to be right in front of us here. We're going to reconstruct this wall once we're done. And I want these to be a part of the wall so we can simply stand over here, hit a button that will eventually go there to initiate the setup. And we'll put in the ingredients here when we need to refill it, and we'll get the potions right here. So once you've decided on that, we're going to come out and place them facing away from where that is. And we're going to stack them on top of each other. So we've got 3 droppers right here, and these are going to have our 3 potion ingredients in them. So for the potion of swiftness that we're going to use today, we are going to have the netherwort, then we're going to have the sugar, and then we're going to have the redstone in the top one, and these all need to get put into the basin to be mixed. So we then need to put down the basin, which will basically be the center of this entire setup. So we're going to come over 2 from where those are and down 1, and that's where we're going to put down the basin. Now we need to use a bunch of hoppers to get all the items in here, so we're going to put 1 going directly into the basin at the bottom, and then we are going to pillar up and put 3 more down that all go into each other, just like that. And what this is going to do is have the items drop into the hoppers and then go down into the basin. And the reason this is so important is because this right here helps us avoid one of the huge pitfalls and overcomplications that all the other setups that I've seen fall prey to, and that is using 3 different basins, one after another, kind of going down into each other to brew these. You do not need that. You only need one basin. And the way we get around the idea that we can't really filter out the different recipes we want is we're going to make it so that when the nether wart goes in, it goes in first, then the sugar, being the second ingredient, goes in second, followed by the redstone going in third. And if you guys don't know, what this will do is the basin, once it starts mixing, will mix the water we put in and the first ingredient first, thus guaranteeing it will always mix the nether wart with the water first, then the sugar, then the redstone, meaning we can do it all in one basin. We only have to heat one, and it makes the setup way more compact. So I think that is super cool that you can do that. It's a really nice workaround to some of the larger setups that you don't really need. So now we need to put down the blaze burner, because if we look at the recipe for the potion of swiftness that we're doing and go to the create portion of it, you can see that the automated brewing that's done in the mechanical mixer in the basin requires it to be heated for every step of the way. So we need to get this set up so that it is going to be heated whenever we want to brew one of these potions. And that's pretty easy to do with one interesting mechanic, and that is using the redstone comparator. So we're going to put this going away from the blaze burner. And for those of you who don't know, the blaze burner emits a comparator signal when it is burning. So this is super useful because this will allow us to tell when this is fueled and when it's not, and when we need to input new fuel. So what we're going to do is put down 2 regular redstone right after this, a redstone repeater, and then we're going to put down our toggle latch right here. And then finally, we are going to put down a, where is it in here? A redstone link on the side right here, a regular redstone dust right here, and then finally a clutch right here that will go into a deployer that is going to go right over here. So that was a lot of stuff all at once, but it needs to all be down so I can explain it to you guys because there's a lot going on here. So basically, if you guys don't know what a toggle or a powered latch does, basically when you input a redstone signal to the portion of this that is perpendicular to the powered latch, so this side right here, it is going to flip the lever on, thus emitting a signal out of the back of this. And that will stay on even if this signal goes away until you input another signal from the side, being where this redstone link is. So the idea will be that we're going to have to jump start this once, and this will power the clutch so that you are getting no rotational power to the deployer, because the clutch prevents the transmission of rotational power through it when it has redstone signals given to it. So this is going to end up being on once we jumpstart this, preventing rotation going through, and nothing will be taken from the deployer and used to fuel the blaze burner. But when we push our button for our setup that's going to be hooked up to this, this will send a redstone signal into the side. It will turn off the lever, thus turning this off, allowing the deployer to fuel the blaze burner, thus giving a new signal here, and then repowering this to prevent this from firing a second time so we don't waste any coal or charcoal or whatever fuel you want to use. So this creates a really cool loop here that you can use to make sure that this only goes off once every time we want to brew potions. Now, one other thing is you do not want a repeater right here. We want redstone dust, because when we have the blaze burner going, if you guys don't know, there's actually 3 stages to the blaze burner. There's fully fueled, about to burn out, and then this right here, which is not fueled. And the only one that will emit a redstone signal that makes it to this repeater is fully fueled. When we have it as partially fueled and about to burn out, that will not be strong enough to make it past this redstone dust, so this will no longer think that this is fueled, which is exactly what we want. Because if this is at partially fueled and we start another brewing and it doesn't get new fuel, we run the risk that this will burn out before all 3 mixes are done, and we will get stuck in the setup and it won't be able to complete the potion brewing, and then you're gonna have to come in here and totally fix everything. So this is exactly how you want it to set up to prevent that from happening. The last thing we need to do is simply empty our hand, shift right click on the redstone link, put in some redstone dust for frequency 1. You can make it whatever frequency you want. You just need to make all the redstone links in today's episode the same. And now this should be done pretty much. We're not going to put a filter on this because everything that we input into this is going to be burnable. So to do that, all we're going to do is grab out a chest, come up here, and then put down a hopper into the internal inventory of the deployer, and then put down a chest here. So when we input our fuel into this chest, it'll go down here, and we have the option of using coal or charcoal, whatever we want to use. This will then be ready to go, and it'll fire off whenever we do the setup. And like I said, we're going to jumpstart this in the end of the episode today so that we power this on the first time before we actually go to brew the potions. Just something to keep in mind. But now we should be good to jump to the next portion of the setup, which is going to be the water filling portion. So we need a mechanical pump here, a fluid pipe, and our item drain to start this out. And we're going to build off this side of the basin. So we're going to put down our mechanical pump right on this side. And the first thing we want to do is check the direction of it, because this does have a direction. When we give it rotational power, it's going to pump in that direction. So we're going to right click on it with the wrench to flip it so it's going into the basin. You can see the arrow, make sure it's going in. Then we're going to put down a fluid pipe, and then we're going to build up here and put down an item drain. So that's going to go right on here. Now, if you guys don't know what the item drain does, basically when an item goes on top of it, it's like a liquid item depot. When an item goes on top of it with liquid in it, it's going to empty it and then send it on its merry way. So this is where we're going to empty the water that's going to go into the basin. And we want to get exactly one bucket here. So what we're going to do is a pretty cool setup, and we're going to build out on each side to have a depot one block up. So right here and right here. And then finally on top of this, we are going to put down our second deployer facing towards this depot. If I could place it down properly, we can just flip it with the wrench, but we want it facing this direction. Now we can get rid of all these blocks of cobblestone here. And now we're really pretty much just left with filtering stuff out of here. So what we're going to do is put down a brass funnel on this front of the deployer, and we actually need to build out here, I guess off this side, with a little bit more, if we could place it there, cobblestone, and this will make sense because it's actually going to be useful in the next step. But we want to put down the brass funnel on this side, and we want to take out a water bucket and put it as the filter, because we're going to use this deployer to fill up empty buckets at an infinite source of water, and then we only want those being put down onto this depot when they are full buckets of water. So now we need to make the infinite water source, which is going to go right here and grab it from this point. So we're going to build out one on each side, and then we're just going to hop up and enclose it. Cobblestone's going to look real gross, so maybe use glass or something. It looks a lot nicer if you use glass, but I don't really care for this because we're not going to be able to see majority of this setup, which is actually kind of sad, I guess, because the setup looks really, really cool when it's running. But there we go. So now we've got the source right here. It's not going to spill over the depot because the brass funnel's taking up that space. And now we need to make sure the rest of this is properly being filtered. So we're going to take a hopper and we're going to put it into the side of this item drain. So this depot will drop items into this item drain. And then we need to take the andesite funnels, and the first one is going to go on the side of the depot, and you need to then right click it to switch the direction that it's going in. So if you see this arrow on the side here, it could go in either direction. So it's going to automatically start by going from the depot to the drain. We want to flip it to go from the drain to the depot once it's emptied out the bucket. And then we're going to put down another andesite funnel on the back of this deployer, and it doesn't want to orient properly, so we got to go all the way up there to do this. Game is really making us work for this. So then we need to just build out right here one, and we can put it down. And again, this is going to be the same thing. So we're going to get rid of that cobble here, jump down on the side, and this, as we can see, we got to flip again to make sure it goes from the depot to the deployer. And now we can just get rid of this extra cobble, and this should be good. And if we were to actually put a bucket in, I know I keep going up and down. If we were to click a bucket in here, it should get put into the deployer. And once we give it rotational power, it'll fill it up and then put it into the hopper and come around. Now at this point, we are good to set up the remaining redstone for both the dropper and this portion, because these are both going to be connected. So the first thing that we need to do is put down cobblestone right over here and build out like this. And then we can come down right here, and we'll put one here so we can get up, but then we want to build right off this hopper, 2 like that, and we want to put down a redstone torch right here. So what this is going to do is make it so the hopper right now is not going to be able to let items through it. This is important because we want to make it so that it only lets the bucket of filled water through once we push the button, and then halt it again immediately, because we only want 1 bucket at a time. So right now nothing will go through. It's given a redstone signal. So then we need to invert this by giving it the signal when we push the button. So all we're going to do is line with redstone right here. And then at the same time, we are going to signal the deployers, or the droppers, I mean, to put the items into the hoppers. And the way we're going to do this is by putting a redstone repeater facing into the middle dropper. Now, the reason this is so important is because we need to make sure it's a max strength signal, because if it is, this will also signal the 2 ones above and below it to also activate, meaning that at the same time, all 3 of these droppers will go off, which is exactly what we need. Now, what we're going to do is bring redstone back here for this, and then put down the final redstone link right here. And again, shift right click and set it to the exact same frequency we had before. So to do that, we'll quickly just grab a piece of redstone and then put it back down. So now this will make it again, so these droppers drop all the items at the same time, making it so the nether wart is always the first one to enter the basin, making it always the first one to mix with the water, so we don't accidentally mix the sugar and have an issue. And that's what makes this whole setup go round. So this should all be good now over here. And the last portion of this setup that we need to do is going to be pulling the fluid out and then putting it into the glass bottles. So the way we are going to go about doing this is starting out with the smart fluid pipe. And we're going to put this right off the basin in this direction and then put down a mechanical pump. Now, the reason we have a smart fluid pipe is because this is going to have its filter set so that we are only pulling out the finalized potion product, because this will always be given rotational power, but we don't want to pull out the fluid too soon. So what we can do right now that we have more inventory space is quickly run back downstairs and grab out all that stuff before that we needed, including the potion that's finished. So we'll grab these out right here, and then we can head back up. And we can set the filter properly for this and actually put the ingredients in where we want them. But so all you do is just right click the potion here, make sure it's the finished version, and you're good to go. Now, do not be confused. I didn't think this would work initially just because obviously this is the potion. It's not just the fluid, but Create is able to interpret that properly and pull out the fluid, even though it's not bottled yet. Now, once we have this, we're going to wait and actually set up the portion over here before connecting it. So over here, this is going to be the filling station. We want to put a depot right here and then put the spout down on top of it. So we're just going to shift right click on it, and there we go. So the spout, when we give it fluid, will fill any liquid container that's below it on the depot. So we want the glass bottles to end up on this depot. And to do that, we're just going to come over here and put down a hopper, and then we're going to put down another one of the chests right there. And this is where all the glass bottles can go. If we toss them in there, you can see that they then end up on the depot waiting to be filled. But we want to make sure that we're pulling those out, but only once they are filled. So we're actually going to need some cobble here. We'll put cobble down right there, a depot down right there, and then we're going to put down our brass funnel right here. And to avoid this happening, what just happened, we're going to filter again the finished potion. And then we can just put this quickly back over in here. And now you can see it's going to wait until it's filled to drop down here. So now that we have that, we're just going to make sure that these all get input into a chest. So we'll put a chest right down here, and then grab out our last hopper and put it into the chest from the depot. So when they're filled, they will then be input into the chest here, and we can grab all our finished potions out from that. So really the last portion to do now is going to be taking the fluid pipes and running them all the way up there to the spout. So we can just start coming off of this thing over here. Obviously, we're making sure it's going in the correct direction when we supply it with rotational power. And then we're just going to build up and build off of this. And all we got to do is just connect these however you want to do that. And now this setup should pretty much be good once we give it some rotational power. So what we can do now is start pulling out all the cogwheels that we need for this, some gearboxes and some shafts. And we're going to bring the rotational power in from over here first to this mechanical pump using a cogwheel, then to this one. Then we need to put down the mechanical mixer on top of the basin really quickly. So we'll just right click on there. We're going to put down a cogwheel there, one right there on that side. And then finally, we're going to put down a cogwheel on this other side of the mechanical pump. Now we'll start from over here, and this one has done its final connection by putting down a large cogwheel right here onto the clutch so that this will transfer power over here. Yes, it's going to decrease it to 16 RPM again, but it's just firing off that deployer, so it doesn't really matter. Now we need to connect these, and a simple way to do it is going to be right next to the basin, put down a vertical gearbox, and then use a shaft to connect these two and these two. And now the last thing we need to do is right over here. This one's already getting power, so we just need to properly orient a vertical gearbox so that this cogwheel is going into that, which is giving power to that deployer up there. Now I believe all of this should be hooked up, so once we connect this, we should be able to see everything getting rotational power. The bucket we had up here got filled. We can hear it. It'll be sitting on this depot waiting for the redstone signal to go away for the hopper to pull it out. Everything else is running properly, which is great. This one's firing off down here right now. But again, that's because I said that we needed to go and kind of kick it off before this setup. So what we're going to do is put some coal in right here. We can see it gives power, flips the latch right here, and then that initiates the redstone signal to the clutch and stops the deployer from going. Now I want to show you guys really quickly what happens when this starts to fizzle out. It's going to take a little bit, but this is the first stage. This is the fully fueled stage of this. So like I said, there's 3 stages. The next one is going to be not so bright. It's not totally burnt out, but we're going to chill here for a second waiting for it. It's actually probably going to take a fair bit of time, but there we go. You can see now that it's switched down, and now it's not giving a signal in here, but this is still going to be turned off. But if we were to supply this with a redstone signal, this would not kick back on until it's been refueled. Now, the reason again that this is important is because this one right here puts us at risk of not finishing our mixing. So we need to make sure it's getting refueled if it is at this stage when we reinitiate another set of potions coming through. So we can just go, I guess, all the way around here so we can get back up, and we'll just come up here with some cobblestone because we need to now fill up these droppers in the proper order, being netherwort, sugar, and then redstone. It is imperative you put it in the correct order that it needs to be brewed in. Otherwise, this is not going to work. And then finally, putting down the final button. So we have all the redstone links set up. This one, we again need to make sure, and I got to grab it out of here, 1 redstone just to set it to the proper frequency. So frequency 1, if I could get it, set to redstone, and we can put this back in here. We can cover this back up. Remember, we want this one to be on sending, not receiving. All of these should be on receiving. If we can see the proper little thing on the side of them. That one down there is on it, and the one over here should be on it. Oh, I didn't set that one to receiving, I don't think. Okay, so one little mistake. Oh, no, I did. I just couldn't see it. Okay, so I didn't make a mistake. That's right, guys. Apparently we're a pro here. I should never question myself. But now that we have that, I think the button was supposed to go right here. I hope. So there we go. And now we should be done. I believe everything is good to go. So if we hit this button, we should be able to see everything fire off and start running. Just checking that all these are pushing in the right direction. Okay, so here's a perfect example. You saw that this was hooked up in the right direction initially. For some reason, it flipped. We need to flip that back. I don't know why that happens, but we need to flip it back. So there we go. I believe the other one should still be in the correct direction from this. Yes, it is, but just double check. So now we should be good. Moment of truth. We toggle everything on. The item should go in there. The bucket should go in here. And the mixer should come down in a second and start mixing this. I didn't put my coal in. Okay, well, that got screwed up. We can initiate this on our own. Okay, now it fired off on its own. Okay, now it's gonna mix. Sorry, slight mistake there. We can also drop this in, but it mixes once, mixes twice, and it'll come down and mix a 3rd time really quickly. Oh, it probably already mixed all 3 times. I guess I missed one of them. But now the fluid is going to be pulled up here, and it's going to go into the spout. It takes a little bit of time, but if you have particle effects on, you'll be able to see it coming up. And then finally, these bottles will get filled, and then they'll go into our chest. So there you can see 1, 2, 3, and the extra 4, and they all go in here. Potions of Swiftness, giving us speed for 8 minutes. So that is the setup, guys. I am so happy with how this turned out. I think it looks amazing while it's running. If we just, again, take another look out here, I think this thing is crazy awesome. Obviously, the cobblestone looks a little bit gross, so maybe replace that with a nicer looking block, but there's so much stuff going on in such a small area. It just looks phenomenal. And I'm pretty happy with all these different redstone setups in here to get it all functioning. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the setup. Like I said earlier, I spent so long coming up with this. It took like 7 hours to design and troubleshoot and get everything working properly. But I think it all paid off in the end. So let me know if you guys set this up in your world, what potions you're brewing with it. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you later.